So welcome to today's fitting, here with Tom Rosenthal, who's come in, who's, from what I understand from the warm-up swings, lots of speed, a very interesting set of clubs.
Thank you. Is that
so? I think your ball striking ability is, if you can do it with those clubs, is quite good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so, there'll be plenty of reasons for this as well, but I think as someone who's kind of, I would say, starting to take the game more seriously.
Well, yes,
Seriously?
I suppose so. I've taken it seriously from the day that I started, but I'm only starting to get slightly good at it now.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, I started about 5 years ago, and I've been obsessed since day one, really. But it's very difficult to learn, isn't it?
And especially if you've done a lot of other sports as well.
Yeah. I was playing cricket for the first couple of years, playing golf, basically.
Yeah.
And
Those two don't mix. No, they're not good, not good. Although having said that, the England squad, I think the highest handicap's 10.
Really?
Yeah. But they have a lot of time. Yeah. So there you go.
But Harry Kane's off like 3 or something, isn't it? I mean,
they have more time.
Right, yeah.
and cricket, actually, you'd think it would complement, but actually,
the wrists have killed me for the first few years.
Yeah. So in terms of where you're at with being in here today, what's the is there a key? We're going to focus on the irons first. Is there kind of a key reason for now being the time to come in?
Well, as I said, I've been playing golf for a while, and I haven't really felt like I was at all good. Like it's taken me a long time to feel like I can actually attack a golf course without just being petrified that I'm going to lose the ball.
Yeah.
And I wanted to reward myself for basically getting a swing that I feel is somewhat repeatable. And I've had in my head that once I actually work out how to swing the club, I want to get someone as smart as you to tell me which clubs that I should have.
Flatter will get you everywhere. Yeah.
I also have I play golf with my friend John Robbins, who is a fastidious golf nerd, and he's been evangelizing about this place and telling me that once I come to this place, it will fix all my problems.
So
in my head, I feel like once after this, I'm going to be on tour basically. So
okay.
No pressure.
No pressure. No, okay, well. Corn Ferry Tour, here we come. So you've got the specs of your current clubs on screen here, and there are some really quite interesting bits to it. You alluded earlier to several clubs breaking and being reshafted. So what you've got is a set with 3 or 4 different shafts in, 2 of which are similar weights, around 90, 95 grams, one of which is 130. So that on its own, if I put it into cricket terms, you're then playing with 2 totally different weights of bat. So, but then because of the way they've been rebuilt, when they have been rebuilt, the lengths vary, the balances are really different. So in terms of swing weight terms, you go from D5.5 to C9.9. So that equates to about a 10 gram difference in head weight, which is massive for what we do. So that means that you've got to have, to run through the swing weights in the set, 5 irons D5.5, 6 irons C9.9, 7 irons D4.5, 8 irons D0.7. And essentially, but that fluctuation, you have to swing them differently. So you can't put the same feel on any of those 4 clubs and get the same kind of results. So even when practicing, it'll take you 2 or 3 shots, 3 or 4 shots with each club to start to find a dispersion pattern. And then if you switch, you've got to go through that process again. Switch, you've got to go through that process again. So when you're on course, you've got one go at it, you haven't got the backup of a few shots to find the timing with that club. And so from an iron play point of view, where it's about accuracy and distance control and just, real kind of dispersion, and with the speed that you've got and be able to attack the course, you want to be able to know what's going to happen, roughly speaking, rather than going, well, I know this club goes really well when I get it right, but it also goes really badly when I get it wrong. And so you're having to fight the clubs.
Because basically, as I said before, like what happened, all of my club heads at some point have like flown off or snapped, because I got these clubs from like 5 years ago from my mum for Christmas, and I don't know, I bashed them into so many driving range floors that they. And I would just take it into the clubhouse of the club that I was playing at and be like, can you fix it? And they'd give it a couple of hours. Come back. I assume that they would put in the same shaft when they did that. Is that not what they've done?
So if it's just the head that's come off, then yes, it'll be re-glued back on, cleaned up and re-glued. But you only have to, 1 or 2 grams in the head will really affect the way that the club swings. So if you think the kind of acceleration pattern, if you're going from 0 at the top of your backswing to 90 odd miles an hour at impact, couple of grams momentum is turns into a lot of actual physical force going through. So if they get put a bit more glue in than it had originally, that's a couple of grams. If they had a lot of glue in the
just
first
because it's
so,
different people doing it, they might do it in a different way.
Yeah, that installation. So the build, we'd always say the fit's really important, but the build's really important because if the build's not right, you're not going to get what you're fitted for. So
what I've been doing is basically completely ignoring all of the skills that you have.
I wouldn't say ignoring them, just haven't had your eyes open to them.
Right, okay, yeah.
But it is a case of we can build, because we've got the workshop on site, everything's calibrated, and the guys who are experts, they can build to really tight tolerances because they've got the time to do it. Whereas in the factory and the from all the big brands, they're building thousands of clubs a day. We're building tens of clubs a day. So they've got to get through a certain amount per hour as a sort of target. We have a much lower target than that in terms of functionally to make it work. So they can spend more time getting the fine details right. Whereas anywhere can glue a club head back on, but gluing it on the right way and in sync with the rest of the set is critical.
And this lie angle is, they were presumably the same when I first got the set?
And there would be tolerances on those. There is one, your approach wedge is noticeably flatter because the shaft's bent. So when
that is the one that sometimes goes very far and sometimes doesn't. Yeah,
so
that does make sense.
This one, we can see the head's starting to come off. So
that was the next one to go.
When I measured the loft and lie, I knew something was up. So so that one is a little bent, right down the bottom. So yeah.
One of them, when we were playing at Harleford, my 6-iron nearly hit him. It flew off. And it was actually quite scary.
See, I mean, who knew golf was a dangerous sport?
It is when I'm playing it.
So what we'll do, and the 6-iron is the one we'd test with, but it's also got the original shaft setup, and actually probably one of the more original structural setups as well.
Maybe it wasn't the 6-iron.
So
maybe it was the 5-iron.
The 5 would definitely be in the one. That one's got the different shaft in. So the 5-iron has also been built half an inch longer than it would have been, and that's why it's really head heavy.
I'm putting you through your paces today, right?
No, this makes my job a lot easier. If I can't improve on that, I'm in the wrong game. That's to a point. But yeah, essentially, you've got to have, ideally with a set of irons, you want one swing thought in it to match from the 5 to the 6 to the 7 to the 8, and at the moment you've got to have 4 or 5 different swing thoughts just to get the same timing.
Very interesting. But this, I mean, as I was saying before, this is kind of why I wanted to do this at this stage of my golf journey, because previously I've just been literally just trying to make a connection, and like, I just care if it sort of comes vaguely off the middle of the face and it goes sort of vaguely towards the target. But as I'm getting better, obviously the dispersion and the yardages start to matter more, because I'm trying to actually score.
Your margin of error scoring wise gets less and less. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very exciting. Thank you very much.
So there's definite potential to improve and to make the game much more repeatable. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Brilliant. Very excited.
Right.
Do I hit some balls now?
Your 6-iron. Yeah. What do you play a particular ball when you play, or prefer a particular ball?
He's made me get the Scrixon, this blue Scrixon.
Oh, the AD 333.
Yes. There you go.
So we shall use.
I haven't been. There's no sort of reason for that, apart from John said that they were good and cheap.
Yeah, very good balls. Yeah, and found balls are fine, they're very cheap. But if you're playing, the most important thing is to play the same ball regularly. Because then chipping, putting, ball flights, the consistency of. So it doesn't have to be a Pro V1 ball, or style ball, but if you're playing the same one, at least you can get a repeatable, consistent reaction off the face. So. Is there anything in particular from a swing thought point of view, or anything that you work on from a swing point of view?
Right now, and again, I'm not really doing it that well, is I'm trying to work on keeping this arm a little bit straighter, a little bit longer.
You're quite mobile in your elbows.
I don't know, but basically this gets a bit like this. So my sort of round killing shot is left, like a snap hook left. And I think, what happens is this gets very like this, and then sometimes I can fix it and I play it well, but sometimes it just goes like that and it gets there and it goes. And it literally every day of the Murray Cup, I had 2 holes where I just lose 2 balls left, and it's a complete card ruin. And without that, I could actually get quite good scores.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to get that out of my game. This is basically my quite good shot.
Yeah.
Tends to start and go a little bit left. Anything I can do to get rid of this snap hook is what I'm thinking about right now. I think it's just
I think we can help with that.
being like this a bit more, but I understand there's stuff about trying to get a bit more like that when you come down, but I don't really think about that.
Wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah,
Don't worry about that today, for sure. I mean, there will be plenty we can do to help with that left-hand miss.
But yeah, also just try and swing a bit slower, essentially.
So for the purpose of today, just swing as you'd like to swing on the course rather than how you feel like you've got to. So free it up, basically.
Okay, free it up. Good luck, see what happens.
Can tell he's an experienced golfer because he's already talked himself down. Yeah. Okay. We'll get kind of 4 or 5, 5 or 6 just to get a good base average.
Notice how none of them are quite going at the target.
So when you're playing cricket, what bat did you use? Was it a light pickup?
I used to play with quite a light pickup, yeah,
Okay,
to be honest. But now I'm a bit older, I think I would play with a heavy one. But yeah, when I was a kid, which when I was good, it was quite high back and light. But I'm just good at timing it, you know. So,
And were you more kind of orthodox high elbow? Or
to be fair, I
bottom
used to
hand and
actually,
corner?
yeah, like I'd hit quite a lot of 6s for quite a skinny person, you know.
I'm not surprised looking at speed.
Right, yeah.
Got it.
Right, come on, let's hit one at the flag, Tom.
If we could shave down this time over address by about
Oh, you don't like this?
that'd be great as well.
So shorten the address? Okay, yeah. Problem is
He's got it in my head.
This just shows there's an
He's got it in my
active
head.
mind going on.
So I tried to do it quick. All right, okay.
We'll take that
Yeah,
one
get
off.
rid of that one, sorry.
Mulligan. Okay.
Just relax.
As you do that, if you go
Okay. Cool. Right. So, the good news is I can tell you from a club point of view why it's doing that, and the other good news is that actually kind of general swing side of things is in a decent place. So if we take those batch of swings, so there are key things that I'm looking for from a data point of view. So club speed, plenty of speed, 91 odd miles an hour, that's pretty strong. You know, towards sort of mid upper 90s, certainly 95 odd on average. So for any amateur player, there's a lot of speed. So distance is really not exactly a problem. And actually, quality of that sort of smash number is your ball speed to club speed efficiency. That's an energy transfer ratio, and that's very strong. Now they're strong lofted, and they're a head that's designed for speed, but you get good quality strike onto it. So that's also a big plus point. They are flight-wise is on the lower side. So if we were trying to get as much yardage as possible, great. But actually, I'd rather something that gave you a little bit more repeatability. So we'll rein that back a little bit. But from a delivery point of view, so these numbers are what your swing's doing. So generally 2 or 3 degrees down into the back of the ball, the angle of attack, which is great. That's ball turf. And your first swing was only 1 degree into out. Now, I think the others have gone more to the right, so positive number on the horizontal measures to the right. Because the first one went left, you've then tried to start it right with your swing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which actually makes it worse, because then the face has got to wrap a little bit more.
Yeah.
But that first swing shows me kind of where your kind of stock swing, where your stock movement is, which is actually very, very neutral. So you're having to battle, because I don't think that the light total weight is that far off. So your speed is more kind of crack of the whip speed. It's not have a kind of heavy kind of sledgehammer hit at it. You have a real kind of whip through. So I don't think you necessarily need lots of dead weight of club, but you definitely need more feel for the club head to create that late hit, that drop in, that lag position, which then holds face open a bit more. Which then, if you're on 1 degree into out, keeps it on the line. So if we can get that balance right, you can just move through the ball and the club naturally drops in and stays later through impact, so it doesn't then flip over left, which then allows you to neutralise your path and the ball stays there. So you move really well, you have a really orthodox move, but you're having to manage your swing to manage the shot dispersion a lot, and that then leads to a bit of red arrows.
Yes, it's all the club's fault.
So, so you can actually see, your delivery stays. You can see the influence of the left miss on your swing line. So the better I do my job on that, the more neutrally you can move, and it'll just stay on line. So
it is very exciting.
So everything about those heads is designed around strong flight, and the offset. It's all designed to bring the shot round to the left and avoid a slice, which you clearly do not need. So,
no, that's not helping me.
So what we shall do is, I'll start off with a head that's very neutral. It will look a little neater than that, because anything that avoids that left-hand side is going to clean the head shape up a little bit. But I'll start with something pretty neutral. We'll bring the loft up a little bit, but I'll work on shaft first. So, but yeah, there's plenty to work with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is so exciting.
It's not a lost cause. So I'm going to start with T150 head, where we get a little bit more loft back, but it's not designed to hit the draw shape, and that for Tom is one of the worst things. But I think his ball striking is good enough for this, so this will be a good test. So this will look very different. So much cleaner, simpler, neater head shape.
Wow, that's beautiful, isn't it?
That's a good response. That kind of oh my god, that's scary isn't what we want. But yeah, so it allows me to bring the loft up a little bit.
I don't think I've played with good enough clubs to get scared. I don't have any PTSD of trying to play with a blade or anything like that. Cause
that's good.
I've only ever had these beautiful rogues. But,
and the thing is, ultimately, the function of where those heads are designed isn't around where your swing's at. They're designed, yes, for forgiveness, but that low loft, strong ball flight, anti-right essentially, just isn't to your requirement. So you then have to manage your swing to try to get the start line correct, and then it goes away from being a natural flow. So the better the club is, the more free you can move through the shot and just collect the ball. That's the principle, and then that's when the consistency comes from. Easy going.
It is just very exciting. I love hearing you talk about my potential and my golf game, what it could be.
Yeah.
So when you're describing it, it sounds like.
Well, there's a reason why. I mean, some people just have a more natural aptitude for moving a club, whether it's a cricket bat, whether it's a golf club, whether it's a hockey stick. Balance is one of the key things. But if you're naturally a good ball striker, that will take itself across all sports. So the fact that you could hit a cricket ball a long way and cleanly, that bodes well from a golf point of view.
Well, I hope so.
Right. So with these, as we go through the different setups, essentially it's A/B testing. So we're trying to say, right, let's push the parameters, dead weight, balance point a certain way, and see how your action responds to it. So it doesn't. We need to find what's wrong to dial in on what's right. So it will feel different. Don't worry about it.
Quite nervous.
Yeah.
Quite stressed.
It's okay. We can always blame the club if it goes wrong. That's fine.
Is this the same length?
It's yes. The head shape can make it look quite a different length at times though.
Okay.
Again, we'll get kind of 2 or 3. Okay, so by going heavier and heavier in the tip end of the shaft as well, as you fire, the club's dropping behind you, so you're then having to play catch up.
Okay.
So from a sequencing point of view, where your existing 6-iron is a little too light in the head,
Yeah.
and it's getting away from you through the shot, you're overpowering the head weight, hence the flick left.
Yeah.
With that one, I've gone heavier in the bottom end. It's essentially, as you move the handle, it's dropping in more,
Yeah.
but it's going too far. So you've then got to fetch at it, which is then ripping that
Should
around.
I be thinking something different, or
Nope.
just keep swinging?
No, just let me change it up. So I'm going to just
so it's-
soften that change back a little bit.
This again. Okay.
So there's a certain flow and sequence between you and the club that I want to see. So the better we get the setup, the less you've got to compensate to put the club on the back of the ball. It just essentially arrives at the right time.
All right, cool.
So where that's gone a bit too heavy, it drops in, and then to get it to the ball, you've got to flip
All
it
right.
through.
Well, I'll just keep swinging.
So the better we get the setup, the simpler it's going to feel
Yeah.
through the ball. So for some players, you need mass in the bottom half of the club, and it just depends on how you put energy in the handle, how you shift it,
right.
which muscle groups and
So
what sequence.
interesting.
And for some, actually, kind of a higher balance in the shaft and just some head weight. And the two, just the leverages work differently.
Yeah.
And you only know by testing. So
I mean, that's so complicated.
that's gone a little too far.
Oh, that was something a bit better. Still went left. but-
Improvement on the last one. It's not quite there, but I'll see one more of that, but that's definitely better than the previous one.
I like that though.
This appointment isn't going to, I'm just going to do it on the computer in the back. I can just check it with this as well.
Okay, so what's good about this one is the first one's always a bit of a sighter. Second one, you actually committed to a little bit more,
Yeah.
and it improved, so it came with you as you moved on it. So that's then created that softer shot shape because the club and you are arriving more in sync. Essentially, you keep the arc of the club stays nice and wide, therefore the face can stay on line longer. So
Yeah.
that was definitely, I'll come back to that. So we'll only do kind of a 2 or 3 with each club, each setup initially, because I don't want you to start to learn it. And then as we dial it in, then we'll...
Even the bad
Go
shot
back.
felt good though for some reason. That felt like a bit
Yeah,
nicer.
because it arrived at a better time, you got better contact.
yeah.
So both of those from a strike point of view are pretty central. So much more consistent delivery in terms of strike point on the face too. So that's going to feel like there's more guts behind the ball as well. Okay. But we need to keep the shaft weight no more than 105, 106 grams. So your current ones are anything between 90/95 in the main body of the set. Your pitch wedge is 130. So where you described earlier, the pitch wedge goes left. It's very heavy,
Yeah.
but it's short, so it's head light. So basically all the weight's at this end. So as you fire it, it's like chaining it to the wall. The club doesn't come with you, and then you do that.
Yeah.
So the face just rips left.
Well, it's the last minute golf bit of purchase.
But the nice thing is what the setup and the result tie up. So it's something that you'd have to do such a strange delivery to line it up.
This is another reason why I wanted to get a fitting, because I've started to get a miss. Up until this point, it's been complete chaos, and I just thought if I came to you with a game that's just like I can barely hit it, then what's the point? But now I at least feel like you can diagnose me.
Yeah, and so you move the club, it's all pretty orthodox. There's nothing funky going on. You put the club on nice lines. And it's actually one of the general misconceptions is that actually, no matter what standard you are, you're much more consistent than you think because it's the same muscle groups working. You're still going to be more dominant in certain physical areas. So some players use their chest and shoulders more. Some are very much like you. Your kind of hips kick out the way. So you build speed the same way. It's just that your tightness of what you do synchronization-wise isn't as good at a higher handicap. but the base move's very similar.
That was quite a bad swing.
That's okay.
It's not a good shot though.
I know the strike wasn't as good, but actually as a miss, it's
yeah.
a straight miss.
I'll definitely take that.
What we call commercial. Okay.
Ah, that's
Okay.
something
So-
I don't like about that.
So with this one, I'm going to make a slight change to this particular one. I've gone back a little lighter in shaft, but I've had to weight the head up to get the feel of it. I'm just going to take a bit of that weight off, just to soften that balance back a little bit, because it looked like the head got a bit detached.
There was definitely something I didn't like about that one.
Yeah. I'll just see. Just test. I've made the head lighter. I just want to test it this way, just to rule it in or out still.
So it's just how it sits on the net. So as in,
Okay, I think. I don't know why I do that. As John says, I have a variety of sort of semi-insane pre-shot routines.
Sorry, I can't be a golfer and be completely insane.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, yeah. So that was the reason why I wanted to change that head weight, because actually it looked like the sort of the kind of the top bit of the club came with you, but the head end got a bit almost like lead ball at the end of a piece of string, a bit detached. And so took 1 to 2 grams off the head, and instead of the head getting sort of separated and out of sync and sticking it in the mat, that's just then come with you.
Well, yeah, whatever
So
that was
that
sick.
there shows you the potential of what your golf game could be.
Oh,
because
yeah, we like that.
there we're really neutral. That's allowed you to just move and fire, collect the ball, and it's got, in terms of shot shape, you've got all of 2 foot of shot shape on it.
Yeah.
It's in a nice picture flight. The kind of thing we'll come on to those sort of bits. But that one, in terms of how easy that felt, that's
I'll be rewatching that on
how the
YouTube,
game
don't worry.
can be. Yeah, so we'll get a couple more of that.
Okay, well, I don't want to now. Did you see that? Whee, is it? I've hit a good one, John.
what club is, what head is that?
T150. So I wanted something that, because of the strength of loft on those, that kept still a little bit of strength to flight. We don't want to lose don't want to add too much loft and send it into orbit. And there's still a little bit of help, tungsten heel and toe, a bit of forgiveness as well. But a head that's not designed to be a kind of a draw bias, or it's a very neutrally designed head from a shot shape point of view. Kind of reward the ball striking more than just cover it up. Okay.
How left is that?
I'll watch one more, and I'll go back to one of the others. I wonder whether the more confident you get with this, it might be a little light. And so that's one of the thought processes for where you're at in the verticals your golf journey, is that actually if we get clubs that work for you, you're going to get more confident and commit a little bit more to the swing. So we've got to allow for that.
Oh, I do
But
like
it's
this
close. It's very close. If it's not this, it's very close.
one. Yeah, I mean, that is good. I do like this one.
So I'm going to go, out of interest having done that, I'm going to go back to the previous one that's 3 or 4 grams heavier.
It is very interesting what you say about committing. It's like, I think that the second one, it's allowing me to be a bit more athletic and I genuinely just try and smack it, basically, which I don't really normally do.
There's a difference between committing is actually just finishing the swing. It doesn't mean hitting it harder. It means just letting the swing go a little bit more, rather than trying to kind of feed the club onto the back of the ball. And so sometimes golfers think committing means hitting it harder. It doesn't. It just means putting a complete freed up move on it.
Yeah.
Or sort of getting out your own way to an extent.
Well, I've had most of my success recently score-wise by trying to sort of shorten my swing and make it almost all like a punch and kind of take a lot of the athleticism almost out, you know what I mean? Almost feel, and I guess that's not really...
No, and that's where, because well, in this one we're about 10 grams heavier than most of the shafts there. there's just, you're overpowering the weight of them, essentially. So you've got to back off your input to match the inertia in the club, is the physics of it. Whereas actually by giving you a bit more mass and a bit more to use to build speed, the two match up. And so you can just build speed naturally and the club's still there for you rather than having to rein it back and steer it.
It's awesome. So you're telling me this is the same weight as my other ones? Or is
No,
it
this is the slightly heavier. So the previous one was
heavier?
about 5 or 6 grams heavier than your current shafts. This one's about 3 or 4 grams, give or take 3 or 4 grams more than the previous shaft. So roughly 10 more than most of the shafts in your irons.
Oh my God, that's so good. That's a joke. That's a joke. John, look at that shot,
You
man.
called it. You called it. You did say it was good and it did stay down the line.
That's a joke.
So, and this is sort of where both are relevant options to a point. So if you were someone who was kind of more comfortable playing a little bit back from further, wanted to be a bit easier to get the best out of, then the previous shaft means it's a bit lighter, you haven't got to work it as hard. That one allows you to be a bit more positive with it. So, and this is where for me, I would err to that because it allows you, so as you start to see that shot more regularly, you're unlikely to back off and go into your shell and steer. You're more likely to go, right, I can stand and commit to this. So having a little bit more to hit against means you're not having to smash it, but it rewards you for getting it right rather than actually, say if you were 65, 70 years old and getting weaker, then okay, yeah, the other would be a great option. But where your golf's improving, I want you to be able to kind of play a more positive game rather than have to rein it back.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's good. There are a couple of other ways we can go. Sorry, John.
That felt different.
Okay, right. Okay.
Doing that, can I just ask you, is this experience kind of what you thought it would be so far? Any surprises?
Well, I like to outsource my golf knowledge to other people who know more. I often ask him what shot to play. He's frequently told me that the shots I'm attempting were insane, and it turned out he was right every single time. So it is a bit of a pure pleasure to be around someone who clearly just knows so much. I mean, he is explaining it to me. I'm processing about 20% of it, but when I hit a shot like that, I mean, I've never hit a shot like that before, to be honest. And it's really nice to feel like I can just hit a thing at a target and it go towards it, which
must be nice to see such a tangible, quick change.
Yeah, well, I mean, golf is so strange, and it's taken me a while to even get the feeling of hitting this, and I look up and it's actually going at my target. I get quite surprised and excited about that. But this is obviously the next level where it's going to hopefully go the same kind of like distance and the right flight, and hopefully as I get better at golf, I start to picture the shot, and it's all that trust in the equipment that I can actually just go for it and it's going to happen. Like, I've never had that, so yeah, that's why I got very excited by that shot particularly. So I don't know, I'm having a great time.
But as you said, I mean, probably a third of what we're doing here is giving someone the trust to say, right, I know the clubs, I know why we've done what we've done, I know why they're put together the way they are. You know, the ball flight we're getting from either of the setups when you strike it clean is very, very similar. So it's going off on the same ball, but because you're doing the same thing over and over again. So what we can see from a swing line point of view is we're starting to see, shall I go back into this? You know, from a path point of view, you know, the path numbers are starting to get smaller. They're certainly more consistent because you're now not having to go, okay, it's missing left. I need to either aim well right at target or start it well right at target. So, you know, that last one had, you know, looking at a shot shape point of view, 6 yards of shot shape. Well, it's just over the width of the bay, which is, I think we can forgive you that, over 194 yards in the air. So, but, you know, 16, 6 launch, 4-8 spin. That's the same as the last shot with the other shot. You know, 17, 9, 4, 6. So they're all within the same sort of flight window. So again, what the clubs are now able to show you is what you're doing. So really, if the clubs are right, then they're just showing you what your swing does. So if it's consistent, that's because what you're doing is consistent. So yeah, there's some. You basically sign him up for a better ball comp off his current handicap, because that will, I mean, if your mates will not allow you to play off that for long if you're hitting it like that.
Wow. This is the thing I've heard.
I've still got to put it in play off the tee, which we will come on to at some point as well. But
just take an 8 iron for tee.
yeah. So very, very similar dead weight to the last shaft, just a slightly different balance.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to confirm, you want the same ones as the wedges on that?
That's no good.
Okay, let's see one more. So this is a different. I've just pushed weight and balance a little bit again. So
That's probably on me, isn't it? There we go.
okay, yeah. So this one, the weight sits a little higher up the shaft towards the handle.
Oh,
And
it's gone back at the target.
so what's happening is that's now letting the club head end just start to get away from you through the ball. So
Yeah.
the strike's gone. So we've effectively counterbalanced the shaft a little bit more, and that doesn't suit as well. So I'm going to pop the other one back in, because that
That
definitely
felt like a
wasn't as
big
good.
slice, and it's actually sort of gone.
So your
it's
path
lost a
went
bit
a
of
long
distance,
way
but-
inside. So you've lost a natural. So if the better we get the club, the more naturally it stays in your swing plane. I say your swing plane simply because on some of these videos in the past, it's sort of been confused that I'm trying to create a particular plane, but ultimately we all move it on a particular plane.
Yes.
And the more on that plane the club can stay, the more online the face stays. So if it gets out of plane, you then have to find the ball, and that's when you start to move your swing around.
It's so interesting.
And the fact that both of them stuck both of them in the mat, so it's not just a one-off. Right, that was just a funky swing. That was just not.
It is quite
as
weird
well
to get your
suited.
head around though, because obviously every time I think it is my fault, like it is a bad swing.
With golf, it's very easy to do that because there are so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, your action is quite sensitive to changes because you've got more of a kind of a snap
Yes.
speed. You build acceleration quickly, therefore it's a narrower window to fit within. Because if you were kind of long and languid and gradually, you've got to the same speed but gradually built it up rather than went bang bang.
Yeah.
Then the quicker acceleration amplifies the changes. So it's more obvious when it's right because you haven't got time to save it.
Okay.
Generally, TV shaft and head
Ah.
something like that would be good. It's hard to say without I'm just gonna
Left the club face a bit open on that.
So
That was my fault, I think.
Gauntlet, but straight away back into this, whereas in the other one the strike went completely. The strike's still there.
That was. I know what I did. I just opened it a bit coming back, basically. But yeah, just pured it. Just.
Okay, a little heavy with better line. One thing I'm going to have a quick look at. So put it on a better line, just got a little bit heavy. I'm just going to have a little, I can see top hand wise the fit's good, but if you put your bottom hand on there for me, that doesn't fill out your bottom hand. So if you put your palm up next to mine, you're actually quite long that way in the hand. So if we take kind of hand length there, you're quite long here.
Yes.
So it's a bit narrower in the bottom hand. So I'm going to put a grip on that's a bit thicker in the bottom hand.
Superb.
That should help to stabilise it.
Yes. I saw a video
leave
with John Daly when he was talking about this.
Yeah.
The gap there, or whatever. And
Yeah,
it's hard-
because if it
slightly harder
gets
to
too
control the face.
small, it can slide around in
Yeah,
the hand.
yeah,
so
yeah.
we want it to fill. So for me, if I turn it around, that then fills that finger out more and stabilises it. so it can't really move. Whereas, you know, at the bottom there, it actually it can slide around, and that can also then one, you've then got to clamp down, you lose a bit of fluidity from tight muscles, but it can mean that you can manipulate the face quite a lot as well. So I'm going to go to a +4 grip, which takes the tapering out.
Fabulous. Ah, yes,
So it should just feel a little more stable in the bottom hand now with the slightly thicker grip. Because if it gets it too much in the fingers, then you can use your fingers to rotate and maneuver the face around.
That is better. It still happens a bit. I wonder what would happen if it got even fatter.
We could certainly go a bit bigger.
But that has...
But it's a little bit off centre, but it didn't. It looked a little bit quieter through the ball.
Yeah, it still moved a little bit, to be fair, and that does just happen to me, which again I think causes that killer left.
Yeah, the more in the fingers it gets, the more you can use your fingers to rotate the face.
Yeah.
So for you, actually going a bit bigger,
put it
or
around.
slightly on the bigger side of neutral is probably better.
Oh my God. Sorry. What happened there?
Just a little close. I think path probably got a little bit into out.
Very
Just
interesting.
stood slightly close to it, that was all. What you might find as well is as your hands arms relax a bit more, you actually get full extension rather than kind of holding on and pulling in. So it only needs to be half a ball or so to create one of those. So. That's nice. Yeah, definitely in terms of weighting, that's much cleaner through the ball. So some of dialing, getting that little bit of directional consistency is actually, say, with a marginally bigger grip, just actually getting out of compensations and just starting to free up. Whereas it's why sometimes the first swing with something can be really, really good.
Yeah.
Because you're just, where are we? It's like something like that. Because you're just moving. There's no kind of thought process. And as we get further into the fit, sometimes brain starts to kick in. Whereas actually, the cleaner shots, straighter shots, sometimes come when the least conscious move.
Yes. Get the brain out of the way.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of overworking the face. So the last one, a little bit left, you just open the face up a bit more. But that's just dialing in feel and regulating it. Actually, because that swing path was half a degree. That's just one of your squarer swings.
So the face was just open.
So actually, so just then work to open it. So it's actually sometimes quite hard. The club's more on line, more on plane. The face is more stable, so you actually don't have to work the face. Always the more you just allow the club to stay on line, rather than consciously trying to do something with the club face, the better.
What was that? Was that open again?
Slightly right. But I'd almost rather see. Okay, slightly right. You've got a little bit more angle of attack, got a little more down and open. So we're still seeing a much more consistent contact, seeing a much more consistent path. This is almost, there's a bit of what I call decluttering to be done, where you get used to just letting the swing go. Really, because simple like down, stay in posture, two turns and collect it is kind of what you need.
No, that's not it. Sorry,
I'm going to take a fraction off the club head to see whether that's just dropping it under a little bit. But your swing line, those last few, 0.4, 1 degree, 0.6, they're now not in to out. They're neutral, a hair out to in.
So I think I've got
So that's
my
just
head about
then
this grip.
slightly working the face a little bit too open through the ball. Let's take a little bit of weight off that. The things for strike-wise on those last few have been, and so some of that is just actually, there's a bit of where you've had to feel for pretty much every single shot with your current set and actively do something to find square. Sort of small muscles, hands and forearms like doing things, but they're just taking the face offline. So the more you can, to a point, kind of let these things just collect the ball and free it up.
Yeah.
Then if you do your job and put the swing online, then really it's the face stays online because you maintain your posture well. Your action's very orthodox. It's not like there's anything really quirky that you've got to do with the club face.
So just take the hands out of it as much as possible.
Well, I say free it up. You're not trying to hit a shot. Just so turn back, turn through, collect it. Yeah, and that's then that little bit squarer. Slightly right, but it's a much softer shot shape.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have to actively do anything with the club face if you put a good move on it.
Ah, that's rubbish. Sorry, man.
What I'm going to do, I want to change the head on this. So I'm going to put something different on the bottom just to see if that changes. I'm going to get a couple actually, just to see if that changes anything up. You know, the good swings, good shots are in a really nice place from a flight point of view. It's like that one was a little bit right. Launch and spin's a hair on the higher side, but that's with the open face.
Yeah.
The good hits, the cleaner hits have been in really, really nice places from a launch and a spin point of view, being around the 16, 17 launch, just under 5,000 on spin. That's a nice mid to slightly stronger mid-flight, but it's a controlled ball flight. I like where that is. But I also want to just change something up a bit as well, so it's not just hitting the same thing over and over again. So, ping I-230, great.
I think that's out to win as well. Sorry.
It's a good hit. Yeah. So it's just, I can see one thing on that. There's a bit that actually, as you tighten, the technique tightens up a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a little lateral move off it. So that's sort of shifting.
Okay.
That's a bit where some of the face is going on.
Ah, interesting.
But that's a minimal thing. You see, the delivery line's very, very stable. So it's one of those where, the better we get the clubs, the more it allows you to see what's going on in the ball flight rather than something random happening because of a compensation, and more directly treat any swing fault rather than, well, is it you, is it because of clubs?
I do notice that I sort of lose my swing on a round of golf. Is that just like a weakness thing, basically? Do I start to tire and then start to do this?
Not necessarily. It can literally be because, over the course of the 3 or 4 hours, there's a little bit of fatigue, but also we can get into, habits can creep in. So like I've always got swing habits of getting a little bit lateral in the legs.
Yeah.
And when I'm fresh and the mind's fresh at the beginning, I'm focusing on the right thing, and then things can slip a little bit. So it's just knowing what your keys are to go back to.
Yeah, basically, this is what I need to learn.
And so you see that on tour as well. They have parts of the round where the game goes, but they know what they've got to do to get it back, and that's where they're so good.
Yeah.
Well, there are many reasons why they're so good, but
I don't hate a shot like this at all, to be fair. It's just that one that when I pure it and hit it really left, that's what completely kills me.
Yeah. And so some of that, I think the grip size will help a bit with that. Keeping a bit of tension out of your hands will certainly help with that. But the heavier weight is a big reason for that.
Very interesting.
Changing the loft there?
Very slightly, just slight change on the loft, just to match what we had.
Are my lofts going to be like yours now? We're going to hit the same distance?
I don't think yours will be stronger.
No, I mean, that head was just a little bit weaker loft than the Titleist was at, so just bringing it into line.
Oh, do I have to hit the same ball?
The ones you've been hitting are great.
This guy, yeah.
No, they're the ones in front.
You got the Strixons up the front, or the Titleists, because they've got the sensor on the ball as well.
This guy.
I mean, interestingly enough, from a iron point of view, you won't see huge differences. Wedges, the Strixons will spin a bit less than some of the premium balls.
You got me
And actually with driver with your speed,
Yep.
I don't think the Srixon ball helps you with driver.
Is it better than a Dunlop he's found in a lake?
Smidge. Yeah.
Oh, that's new. Where's that gone?
Okay, a little higher. Okay. Lovely swing path. Really good swing path.
That felt.
That's where sometimes actually the first couple of shots when you change it around, because it's new, there's not that, right, I should be doing this, just let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So it's actually almost a truer reflection of what your swing's capable of.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that second one in particular, that's that freedom through the ball that I like.
Ooh.
The interesting thing with that, it's a little bit of I'll watch one, but it's a little bit of a higher launch.
It's crazy how different it feels.
Yeah, so construction-wise, the heads are very different sound. And sound and feel are really one and the same thing. But it's a very different experience to hit with.
It also feels like it's like going up into the sky at the end almost. You know, when you see like
Okay.
Fleetwood and he kind of finishes like this, it feels like that's happening.
Okay.
Nah, that's my bad.
Okay, a little bit ground ball, but
That's my bad.
Good line.
Is that left? It's quite a good shot.
technically a little bit, but only a little bit. Those were definitely freer, just kind of allowing the club to come through a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's more the swing that I want to fit you for, because that just becomes what you do naturally, rather than having to.
Yeah.
So the more you've got to play a shot, the more tight and the more steered it becomes. Whereas actually those ones, the second one in particular, was just a nice, really nice, kind of relaxed freewheel through the ball.
I like this one a lot, yeah, to be fair.
That head might feel a little bit more user-friendly, a little more forgiving. Okay, slightly ahead of it. Okay, I'm going to
So
get
I feel like only one of those was a good swing, but they all kind of went, that's actually quite right, isn't
a
it?
little bit more to the right
Never mind.
there, yeah. Okay, I'll come back to that. Do you prefer the feel of that head?
I wouldn't say I
Or not
prefer it. I just
necessarily?
sort of like the outcomes.
Okay.
Even though, I mean, it's horrendous. I understand they've all gone in different 10-yard increments. That's the worst bit of iron play ever. I quite liked how it felt sort of...
That one hits it a little bit higher. From a trajectory point of view, you know, we can go a little stronger on the loft than that. The Titleist naturally, that T150 naturally brings the flight down and forward a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we should probably slightly, from a numbers point of view, slightly better. Having said that, we strengthen the loft a little bit more on the ping to kind of what they call their power spec, rather than standard loft. Then that gets it very close. So it's certainly doable to get that a lot closer to the flight of the Titleist, should we wish to.
Okay.
I'm going to get probably two other heads to compare.
Nice one.
So I'm going to get a P770. I want to keep a bit of margin of error there. There's no point going too harsh, because then the game stops being fun. So let's see. Where do I want to go with it? So there are heads that are just marginally less forgiving. I'm going to go with that. Let's get a PXG. Just a comparison.
Love it. Come on then. This is the magic club. Oh, they all feel so different, it's crazy.
Yeah, so the construction of the heads really changes the feedback. So this one's a hollowed out head. So again, that produces a different note and sound and feel to...
But I've also just very rarely play a shot that's like that. If it's left, it normally will just draw there.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah, that one's, yeah, it's only two, yeah, face to path 2.5 degrees, which is, I'd say that's a draw rather than the hook, for sure. That's definitely not getting away from your left.
I think I stood a bit close there, sorry. I need to start lining up again properly.
That's right. And there's an element, so you get some players, and you're one of them, who, I think when you see a shot go one way, then you're very good at making a change, but you overdo it. So there are a lot of golfers that actually don't make big changes. If you're someone who can manipulate the club face around, the problem is that you can do it very well, and so you overdo it a little bit.
Oh, Tom, that was terrible.
So just overworking the faces. This is where the more you kind of soften up and free up, the less active that recovery is, and that'll soften off the club face a bit.
How to? If I did just have those like really fat grips, would that help? Like with it, because I completely do all this.
Let me put what in theory is a little bit big, but so going to a mid-size, which technically we don't need to, but let me put that on and see whether that helps to stabilise it further.
Bryson's grips. Let's just cut out the middle. What's the big Bryson?
Let's check the balance. So this one is, I've got it to a mid-size. So this is on the bigger side, but it's not ridiculous. It's the kind of thing, actually, if you take what a cricket bat handle is, this is still nowhere near that size. So, it may well be that actually that just part of bigger, feeling more familiar could be that. There's certainly an argument for that.
I don't know.
And actually, if we're trying to kind of soften off what your hands are doing, it's harder to do. It doesn't stop it happening, but it's harder to do with a bigger grip.
All right then.
Simon, I was just trying to badly explain your conclusion from our last video about the fat grips and Bryson, and who should. And I did a poor job of explaining it, so you might want to.
The more someone's body oriented and single plane, the more relevance it has. I rotate. Yeah, exactly. Mo Norman, exactly that. You know, I rotate. I have to square the face a little bit in my swing, so they actually restrict my ability to square the club face. But there are players. I did a fit last week for someone with a driver. It made a huge difference going oversize. The danger with them is that they go very heavy on some of them, so you've got to be very careful what weight you use, because some of them are 120 grams. They're 10 grams heavier than the whole shaft, and then you ruin the club completely. But they do some ultralights that are the same weight as a standard grip. So.
Yeah, it's not really helping.
I think the closer you can try to just be to your natural swing as opposed to trying to diagnose what you see on the screen and change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. So almost don't worry about where the ball goes.
Yeah, all right.
Does the bigger grip size feel more comfortable? Or does it just feel bigger, rather than necessarily bigger and better?
I mean, it's not really doing what I thought it might. Whereby I thought it would stop me from doing this and stuff, but it doesn't.
Yeah. No,
so not really. I can't say I can actually notice a difference, to be honest, right now. Apart from, as you say, it's a bit heavier. But
it's a nice move.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious. I wouldn't say that I can.
So that one's just popping launch angle up a little bit. I'm going to go to a different head. So yeah, I think it's better for you to err on the bigger side of neutral than too small. Too small, then yeah, that can get in your fingers, and then you can really start to rip the face around. So better to err slightly larger than smaller, for sure. And it's really kind of then a case of finding what level is comfortable, bigger, feels like you can just sort of relax on the club, versus like a cricket bat handle.
Yeah. But that's it. Even with a cricket bat, you can still like work your wrists and stuff, can't you? So
it doesn't stop it entirely. But the bigger it gets, the more into the palm of your hand it gets, and that makes it harder to make kind of big rotations out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop it completely.
All right.
I think what's interesting for me as we're kind of effectively dialing in on things is one of the bits that will make the biggest difference will be actually getting out your own way a little bit. Actually, yes. once the clubs allow you to just play, it then is a case of not angsting over a miss. It's going to happen, but just knowing that, okay, if one does go a little bit right, I've held on to it a bit. That then doesn't require you to wrap the toe over. It's then actually free it up and let it go, rather than rip the toe over to stop it going right. So it's a good thing that you can manipulate the face, but your correction is a little overly strong. So some of that is actually just, accepting that the odd bad shot's going to happen, and then not overly trying to fix it on the next swing, just actually freeing it up. Because the swing line stays very, very square.
Okay, I'm not going to think about it. Stop thinking.
Good. Much better through the ball from a freedom point of view.
I'm not even going to look where it went. I'm not even going to look. I'm just going to hit it again.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to an earlier head. That one's, yeah, they're definitely getting a little bit more, kind of looks more relaxed and more freewheeled through. First swing in particular was really good. That head's not flighting quite as well.
Okay.
A little bit weaker from a flight standpoint. So what I do want to do is go back to that Titleist head that we used first.
Oh yeah.
I think from a trajectory point of view, I think that did the best job.
Mm-hmm.
Close.
I think it'll work, but I'm not supposed to look at the.
Yeah.
I haven't hit the middle.
Just going to take the fractional weight off the grip. Lovely swing line. Just got a little bit, it's just a little behind into the ground, but perfect from a swing line. Previous one was just a slight push, but those swings are better. I'm just going to go take that grip weight back down a little bit.
Yeah, okay, cool. Oh, I do like that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's a little bit right, but with the heavier grip on, you could see where the grip's 4 or 5 grams heavier, 3 or 4 grams heavier, with then needing to add another bit into the head, that it got just a little bit behind you. That one was more out in front and cleaner contact.
It does feel good, this.
And the nice thing is when you just move on it, it's not going left.
Yeah.
The left's only going to come through physically turning the toe over.
Uh-huh.
A little behind it.
It's not bad though, I just didn't hit the middle of the face. But okay. Yeah, I do like this. I know that's not really gone very well, but
Yeah, getting a little over. So in transition, what tends to happen when you start down, there's a little bit of it just doing that. and opening the face up. The quality of contact's really good.
Yeah.
Now, we kind of go, well, shouldn't we be puring everything down the line? But there are going to be technique things that just a bit of tightening up suddenly loses that miss right. It doesn't take much. It's more not getting a little bit moved off. So some of the ones you get a bit heavy, there's a little bit of a move off the ball, which then moves your low point behind the ball. So it's not like it's needing to make swing changes. It's just tightening up around the edges technique-wise that then just means you're delivering the club that little bit more consistently. But the lines and things in the strike are very, very good. Yeah, something like that. That works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just a soft draw, but that looked, just a tighter action.
It's really good, I like it a lot.
And that's a bit of a soft draw. Launch angle's in a good place, spin rate's pretty neutral. Potentially down the line, things like, loft, lie, you might fine tune as your game develops, you might need marginal tweaks on that, but certainly I think that head shaft give you the best flight. There we go, that's nice.
I really like this one, definitely.
So this is where actually that was the trick on ball. The spin's a little bit up and down with it. So where you're loaded, compressing the ball pretty, more than some would at 90 mile an hour with a 6-iron, what happens is the ball doesn't recover that quickly, and this is even more the case with the driver. So you get slightly more varying results off the face. Actually, we go back to what used to be a higher compression ball, a stiffer core, actually will respond a little more consistently for you, which ultimately just means it's a bit dearer from a ball.
Right, I've got to buy more expensive
but
balls.
If we were to go to, if I get a Pro V1, for example, let's just say into that. We'll see where the spin sits. One or other, I mean, every ball brand will have a version of. So, quite frankly, if you don't want to, they're dear at 50, 60 quid a dozen. There are definitely some deals with particular brands. Strixon, you often find some really good deals on there. A very, very well made ball that will perform very similarly.
Oh, mate, I love this club. It's the one, surely.
So, that one there, spin rates immediately, where were the original ones we said there's a nice ball flight, just under 5,000, you get plenty of launch, that sits as a very stable ball flight. It's a bit more from a strike point of view to come out of it, which then gets you up at 185, 190. I mean, your absolutely murdered ones are at 190, 195.
All right, let's try and murder one, shall we?
Certainly 180, 185 as a stock shot would be where a solid contact would get you. Good swing line as well.
I did try to murder it. How far left is that going to go? Is it long? Is it?
No.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So this is so
those
good.
last swings are you're now just starting to swing rather than overthinking what am I doing direction-wise. But again, those last two, this is the critical thing from a ball point of view for you. That was last shot 17.5 launch, 4.970 on spin. A little higher launch, 4.898. You've got literally 100 revs, less than 100 revs difference on spin. So the consistency of the picture flight is a bit more. Because you hit it harder, the premium balls, the core's geared towards someone who hits it hard. But it's worse to overload a ball than to underload it.
Right.
So you'll get a more consistent distance and picture flight and trajectory with a slightly firmer golf ball.
That's crazy.
I'm going to test the lie on this one because I like where that is.
Felt like quite a bad swing as well. I can't believe that I did that.
Yeah, looked horrible.
sorry to hear that.
Yes, just don't say that after that result on course. Yeah, that was a rotten swing.
Right.
Absolutely no sympathy whatsoever.
That's not. I couldn't believe when I saw a straight red line.
It's a bit like when you misread a putt, mishit it, and it goes in.
This fluff.
Yeah.
So what ball? So if you weren't going for Titleist, what other brands was it? The sort of the harder version would be like the Bridgestone RX.
RX is still the slightly softer core.
Right.
So the say whether it's because of the height you hit it, the slightly lower spin balls just mean it doesn't balloon. So the Tour BX, or that is quite a low spin ball. The TaylorMade TP5 would be good. Strixon, the XVs spin a bit more with irons. They do some interesting spin driver to irons, but really, I mean, to be honest, the level that Tom's playing, a few hundred revs on spin versus consistency of that, marginal how much difference it's going to make. However, being able to not rip one left if you just put a good swing on it, that only gains you 10 times more than a small variety between the ball. So what that's shown is lie-wise, that's dead square, absolutely dead square up the face. So the lie of the club is that's spot on, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean,
so that one, yeah, path a little out to in, face a little bit open. It's faded a bit, but now the ball flight's telling you what your swing's done rather than kind of losing the club head, flicking it and going, well, what happened there?
yeah.
So, yeah, nice. And, you know, a little bit more fade, slightly higher launch, slightly higher spin, but it's not flaring up and down. And that's what the slightly higher, effectively higher compression core does for you.
I don't know, man.
Easy game. Easy game. So what are you currently playing off?
18, 19? 19.
Yeah, that's a 19 handicapper's ball strike. Yeah. But ultimately, yeah, the consistency of the strike's not the problem, but the ability now to say, okay, well, if you make a good move, you can pretty much eliminate left with the irons. So you can carry on going with the swing, and your best ones are, well, that was dead straight, or you get the old one like that's a little bit of draw, but we've now not got that ripper left that's hugely damaging.
Yeah, also, I'm not even kidding, this one, look, it felt the same as the one that goes horribly left.
Yeah,
I was like, oh no, it's going to be here. And it was like, so whatever you've done is magic.
So the first swing he took in this bay with his 6 iron carried 205 yards.
Yeah.
What has brought that down by 30 yards?
So that one wasn't quite as well struck. So there's another, at that speed, there's another 6 or 7 yards in there. The first shot was 91, face closed 3 or 4, loft is 2 degrees stronger. The closing of the face turned the loft down even more, brought the spin down by 1,000 revs, and absolutely, and he absolutely ripped it. So that's actually almost more damaging than the fat online, because that airmails a green and kicks hard and goes. So because you can overwork the club, there's so much change in delivery. You're changing the loft a lot. So a comparable strike. I mean, that one's still 10 yards short. So 91. Let's see if I can find one in one of these. Or a 91. Let's just find one that's a more neutral, particular shot type. That. So nearly as well struck, slightly higher spin. That's where I think kind of 185, 190 on a really clean hit. That's representative. But if you hood the face 3 or 4 degrees, 2 degrees on loft is going to be 7 or 8 yards, and then hood the face a bit more, that's another 7 or 8 yards. There's your 15 yards, 205 to 190. But it's long is more damaging than, okay, unless you're playing over water. Long is more damaging than short. So long is normally above the green, chipping downhill out of bundle, whereas short is normally in the mouth of the green or a bunker is one of the worst, albeit not water, but is one of the worst scenarios, whereas long normally is thick rough and ruined from the next shot. So knowing that you can commit through the shot and not sort of randomly have one go 210 and then the next one go 175, I think that saves. And going heavier is what really stops that happening. It stops you overpowering and flipping the toe on it. So being able to say, right, I know an okay one's 180, a really good one's 190, 192. There's a 10 to 15 yards, and what will happen is the more you play, the more you get used to that. That shorter shot will creep up. So then it's a 10 yard. Let's say 10 to 15 yard top to bottom on a really good and a bit of a miss versus a 25, 30. Yeah. And all of a sudden scoring becomes easier because you go, well, the pin's at the back. I know if I hit this club well, I can't go long. Great.
Yeah.
Or if I sort of get it, it carries the bunker.
Yeah, well, I've started scoring better recently because I would always take a club or 2 clubs down. So if I hit the really good one, it might get someone in a flag, but I just got used to being short of the green.
Okay. Yeah.
But as you say, it's like a very irritating way to play golf.
Yeah, and you're effectively having to mitigate a bad one rather than go, right, a solid one's there and a good one's there. So actually, let's play for that rather than trying to avoid the one that goes horribly wrong. And so the one that goes horribly wrong is the rip left. Well, we've taken 90% of that out. So
do you now know what it is you're going to sort of prescribe for Tom?
Yeah, so head-wise, the T150, there's a bit of tungsten heel and toe that still gives you some margin of error. And there's a little bit of a channel, again, similarly, just through the set, there's a bit of progression in tech that as you go to the upper end of the set, it gives a little bit back. So you're not asking you to be perfect, but there's much more control at the mid and lower end of it. It's not drawbars, it's not offset, you don't need anything helping it go left. But it rewards you for getting it right. And I think if we go more forgiving, the problem then is you get less feedback, you get a little bit less of that, right, that's what I want to do. And quite clearly when you went back to this, you enjoyed hitting it. And
Makes
I think
a lot of sense,
a good chunk of it is that. Shaft-wise is NIPPON 1050, so it's actually not an option that some of them used to carry it, but not an option that any of them do. But we can get a head only on the TITLEIST, so that mitigates some of the shaft cost. But it's 105 grams versus 95, so we're up 10 grams. It's a very neutrally balanced shaft. So too high a balance, you lost the club head. Too heavy, went straight out right. Sensitive soul. But it's a very, very neutral setup. We definitely need, we'll look at grip sizing in a moment. We definitely need to go a bit bigger, particularly in the bottom hand. But we can't, because of your sensitivity to weighting, we can't push dead weight very much. So we've got to be really mindful of what we do grip-wise from that standpoint. But shaft length can be where your 6-iron is, that kind of a standard length, absolutely fine. Don't need to go any longer than that. You have a longish leg, but a longish arm as well, and the two counter one another. So posturally, that's nice and neutral. And then loft and lie are very, very, again, very orthodox. So 28 degrees on the 6-iron, which is standard for the T150, and a 61 lie, which they would now call slightly flatter, but I would call standard. So, but it's a very neutral delivery. You're not putting it on a weird plane. So again, it would be surprising if one of those was way off. But that's.
Well, it looks very pretty.
That's my head and shaft is
Thank you very much.
Definitely spot on.
And the heads will stay on the shaft for a prolonged period of time.
The heads will stay on the shaft.
Wow, okay.
I mean, ultimately, it is glue. So you saw at Wentworth, Rory had a head come off.
Yeah, I guess it happens to the best of us.
It can happen.
It's happened to every single one of my clubs.
When it can happen more often than not is if someone leaves their clubs in the car in winter and it gets to -3, -4 overnight.
Not me.
So the extreme temperatures can affect the glue bond a little bit. So that's always something to avoid. But outside of that, it's generally you're very unfortunate if that happens. Especially now we're upping the stability in the shaft as well. That's structurally there's more rigidity there, so it's less like, because it's not like you hack down as well. If you're a really steep angle of attack, that again would put more strain on that bit of the shaft. So just something that's structurally there's a bit more guts to it. But I think what's quite nice is one for, as you see, you want to reward yourself coming in for getting to a certain level. Actually, we can really reward good swings now. So that next step and being able to take the game, developing it forward, well, you're going to be able to gauge how well you're swinging it by what the ball does now, rather than it being a bit of a, did the stars align and your hands compensate, which is really hard to go forward from. Whereas actually with this, we can see when you free it up and just turn through and collect it, it's a very straight neutral ball flight on a very reliable yardage, on a very reliable flight. So the golf becomes a bit more reliable.
Yeah, I mean, it was annoying where I felt like when I put a good swing on it and I was like, that's really good, it would always go left. And it's like, that shouldn't be the case.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be like, wow, that was brilliant. If I hit a slightly off shot, it would go to the flag. And if it was a really good one, it wouldn't. So I'm very excited to...
So basically, I round up is, it is more of a player's style iron, but some of that is we don't need it to help you square the toe up. Some of it is where we want the launch and the spin to be. Some of it is your general ball striking ability. We don't have to go clunky and chunky to give you that, because actually the shaft change does a lot of that. And your swing's online, it's very neutral. So we've seen the path lines go from 3, 4, 5 in to out. Well, the last batch of swings were 1 degree. So it's allowing you to square your action off because it's now staying online, rather than having to anti-left it by getting really inside and flip it. Now we've got neutral or a slight fade occasionally. Well, you now don't have to avoid left. So 10 odd grams in the shaft, a little tighter, a little crisper club head, slightly weaker loft, and slightly bigger grip as well. That definitely will stabilise the hands and just mean point shoot.
Very exciting, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Good time of my life. Time of my life.
Well, you heard it there. you want the time of your life, and really, you know, this just, I think, for you really unlocks potential. It allows you to kind of get your potential on the course.
Yeah, I just want to beat John.
So-
Just want to beat John.
So just that photo of the handing over the note. But if you've enjoyed this, check out all the other videos on the channel. Have a look. We've got all sorts of golfers and abilities to have a look at and see what can tune into your game. And if you enjoyed it, give us a call, book in, and we'll see you soon.